What is up, YouTube? Today I want to talk about a special document Paladin, one of the strongest Ryus in Street Fighter 6 in the US, put together. And normally I don't cover random documents about how to get better because I think there's a lot of information out there. But this document is special for two reasons and why I want to cover it. Paladin's like 16 years old. He's really young. He's like about half my age. And despite the age difference, a lot of how he proposes on how to get better at fighting games is actually very similar to it resonates very strong with me, and this is many of the things that I think about on how to get better at fighting games. But I'll talk about it in my videos a little bit, but it's not really the information people are looking for, right? Most of the times people come in with questions into my chat on how to get better. It's like, hey, what character do I pick? Or hey, what strategies am I missing in the game? Should I play rank more or should I play long sets more? You know, stuff like that, right? Where realistically, this document is not about any of that. A lot of it's about the mental game and the game outside of the game. That's actually at a high level is more important than what you actually do in the game, in my opinion. And I think Paladin's opinion too. And the second reason that I want to cover this is, I don't know, 16. I guess I use both my reasons. He's 16 years old, bro, putting together such a very sophisticated thing like this that resonates with me. All right, anyways, let's take a look. I guess there's only one reason, but it's a good run. I've read through it already and I want to talk about it more. So yes, the overall, the precursor is, this is talking about FGC knowledge that isn't really it's kind of shared among top players, but it's not really published anywhere. I don't really have a video on this. So I guess this is my video on this, just kind of reviewing his document. I talked to Paladin. I was like, hey, cool if I make a vid. He's like, oh, that'd be sick. So that's what I'm doing. All right, so table of contents is talking about what we're going to be covering, but a lot of it is, again, outside of the game. So we'll just get into it. This is talking about transcending the environment. So this paragraph, I think, is maybe it's a little bit mislabeled, but it's talking about you're always going to have excuses on why you're not going to perform the way that you want, right? My personal philosophy on this paragraph is actually a little contradictory. So I am gonna refute Paladin's points a little bit here, but what Paladin is saying is that it's impossible to plan for any contingency, so you need to be able to play through anything. So it's about getting used to being uncomfortable, right? And I think while that is true, that's easier said than done, right? So I think taking preventative measures is good. Like the stuff that you mentioned here, I think it is important to warm up. I think it's important to prepare notes. I think it's important to eat properly and that sort of thing, but you can't count on it, right? So let's take, for example, this point right here. If you warm up, you'll play too much and be too tired to perform in the upcoming tourney. There is a way to technically perfect that, right? I don't know the exact amount of warm up. For me, it's about a half hour, right? But in theory, if there's a point where there's not enough warm up, and that's 0 hours, and there's a point where there's too much warm up, I don't know, 8 hours, right? There is a technical middle ground, and I do think finding the preventative measures to being able to play at your best consistently is really important. But it's also important to when you're not having a perfect day to show up and figure out how to dial in a good performance despite that, right? It's kind of like going to the gym. Some days, even if you're having an off day at the gym, it's important to get the reps in and that sort of thing. Find out what makes you learn fast. I think this could be a whole video of itself. I actually, after SWC, I did a lot of self-reflection and I realized that I'm not learning as effectively as I can. And I think part of that is I need to spend more time actually in training mode and just messing around with inputs and spending my high energy or when I'm really focused, I'm really locked in, spending that time playing games and spending the other times just come up with new strategies while reviewing training and stuff. Basically, it comes down to energy management to make myself learn fast. Does that work for everyone? Probably not, but I think Paladin makes a good point is everyone knows what works best for them. I also learn best when I'm having fun, and messing around in training room is also really fun. So I definitely agree with this. It would be cool to have a whole video on this. Maybe I'm actually reading a few books on how to learn more effectively, and maybe if I get some insights on that, I'll talk about how to learn more effectively, because I mean I'm trying to learn for myself, right? I'm trying to become the best I can for 2026 season. Either way, you probably know better about how you learn than I do, so you can apply that to fighting games, right? If you know in school that, hey, my best performances in school or in work when I'm learning a new subject is by studying one hour a day or something, and just putting in the consistent reps, then it might work for fighting games too. This is funny, man. Just Google it. All right, maybe some of this can be expanded on. This is really important though to manage your stress. My tips for managing stress are diet and exercise. If you are a competitive gamer and you're not being rigorous about your diet and exercise, I think you're trolling. Examine the physical circumstances that allow you to play your best. Yes, there's a lot of different things. Every tournament I go to, I A/B test. I actually play better with no caffeine at a tournament. If I'm just like playing casually, like if I'm playing today and I'm making a video, or I'm like entering like a tournament, doesn't really matter, I'm just playing rank, caffeine actually helps me perform better. But when I'm locked in for a major, I kind of have that adrenaline going already. And so caffeine, I think, makes me play worse because I get more nervous, right? But that's something I've tested over a bunch of iterations. And because I value performing at a big event more than I value performing well in ranked, I purposely stopped drinking caffeine, right? And yeah, there's other things like, so for example, I need a full 8 hours of sleep beforehand. Working out the day before the event and eating a crap ton of food the day before the event helps me play better. But if I do those things the day of the event, I'll just be sluggish, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things here that like a lot of factors that will help you play better. Yeah, breathing techniques. I don't really do. Some of these are interesting, right? Because I obviously exercise. I do think you should warm up. I don't know about every day you're a new player with new weaknesses. I think that'd be kind of crazy if like one day your execution's great and the next day like your footsies are amazing and then your execution's trash. That doesn't happen to me. I think generally I'm pretty much the same player as I go to sleep, as I wake up. Obviously there's like, you know, I could be on my A game or not, but I do think you need to warm up to get used to things, right? Breathing techniques. Okay, so this is kind of crazy because I think that like in 20XX, I think this is the shit people are going to be doing in fighting games, which is actually like have legitimate breathing techniques to do this kind of shit. This sounds like some anime kind of thing, like Demon Slayer. Like I'm a rapid inhale to speed up my heart rate. Yeah, I use my water breathing techniques. But I do think being attentive to your breath can help anchor you and can help reduce stress. So I think that's probably useful. Maybe I'm just not at the level that I that I have different breathing techniques for different people. I don't know. We gotta ask someone like Shao Hai if they do that shit. But I do think breath work has a place. Water, I think, is very important. Water can help calm. I think you notice every single top player drinks water in between like rounds. There's a reason for that. It does help you play better. My water intake on tournament days increases by like 2 or 3 times. Just because like naturally I'm so conditioned, like it's like a Pavlovian response where I play in tournament, I get thirsty because I just drink so much water, and I do think it really helps. Blood work, I guess, again, this I think is some 20XX shit. I've never taken I've gotten blood work before, but I've never gotten blood work to be like make sure I'm performing at my best. But you know, if there's $1.5 million on the line, maybe it's time. I do take a multivitamin, but again, I think nutrition is important. I think we can all agree on that. So chapter 2 is about speaking to yourself. Again, when I was 16, if I saw this is actually what blows my mind. If I was 16 and I saw a chapter about speaking to yourself, I would be like, what the fuck is this bullshit, bro? Like, this doesn't even make any sense. But the older I get, the wiser I get, the more experience of fighting games I get, even just more experience in life, you recognize a lot of circumstances in life are dictated by like kind of the story you tell yourself, right? And what you're speaking to yourself. And something that might seem negative might actually have like a really positive outlook and that sort of thing, right? So I think how you speak to yourself is really important. It's important to keep things in a positive light. So for example, very common thing, if I'm playing Timo Alawi in 2XKO, this is not a top tier team. This is like a high tier team, right? And I lose to someone, I could say something like, man, my team's trash, why do I even bother playing this game, and shut off the game. Or I could be like, okay, his team's better, but I could be a better player and I can excel over this, I can overcome this challenge, you know, that sort of thing, right? There's 2 different ways to approach events in your life. I mean, there's more than 2 ways, but think of it as like positive or negative. And I think it's important, like that story you tell yourself or how you speak to yourself is very important. So I think this is probably what it talks. The way I would phrase this is like having a really strong intuition is important, and very many top players at the highest level are very intuitive players. And so if you ask them for advice, they do struggle to vocalize ideas. That's actually Very true, right? Generally, I agree with this, right? It's important to speak to yourself properly. It's also important to trust your intuition. Minimize the strain of your in-game analysis. This is saying play good character. How I would phrase this is like, if you want to minimize the strain of your in-game analysis, is try to pre-plan everything you can with a well-structured flowchart. Be confident enough in your gameplay and have enough practice that you don't feel like you have to stretch outside that flowchart and make up shit on the fly. Two main types of adaptations. I would agree with this. It's really important to adapt. Some adaptations can be pre-planned. It's weird because I agree with a lot of what Paladin's saying, but I'm not sure if I would call this adaptation, right? This is about, again, how you adapt to things mid-game. And this is saying a responsive adaptation is like, hey, sometimes you can react to things and sometimes you have to anticipate things in order to react. I agree with that, but maybe it could be elaborated on more. I think that's a little outside the scope of this. Chapter 3, understated concepts intended to cure the USA scene. All right, this is gonna be good. All right, we got deep dive into this section about curing the USA scene. Everything begins with neutral, and it's part of the reason why we're talking about 2xKO and how they're gonna nerf Teemo, and what they're gonna do to Teemo is they're gonna nerf his damage, hypothetically, right? That doesn't matter if his neutral's just as good, right? Because if you can win neutral in 2x, then you're winning the game. And that's how it is in pretty much every fighting game, is like neutral's a lot more important than people think. And I agree with this. Attack's mental damage can outweigh its physical damage. Yeah, I agree with this. There are certain things that do cause mental damage, right? So like, for example, if I start playing like a dumbass, or I start whiffing things that I know the opponent can't punish, it will make the opponent like do stupid things, right? So I agree with this as well, and I think that's a skill that takes a while to get used to, is like, hey, when can I get away with stuff that might not necessarily do that much damage, but it'll condition the opponent to either be more scared or to like play more defensive, and therefore you can like take advantage of it over the long run. Do USA scene makes bad decisions overall? So I can't talk about much in Street Fighter. I will say, at least in Fatal Fury, where I've been competing for the last like 6 months, USA and Mexico play a lot riskier than Japan. Their decision making is a lot more optimal. But it's funny, I think USA and Mexico are better at the mental damage thing. like they're better at like just playing YOLO. Like when I think of YOLO play, I think of mental damage. It's just sometimes like USA and Mexico kind of take it like a little bit too far on the they'll take it a little bit too far on the YOLO, on the mental damage side of things. Establishing your game plan, train the thought. What the hell? But I don't know. I might skip this section, bro. What is this talking about? The train of thought is the zeitgeist of echoes that both players emanate. I'm not gonna lie. I need a translation for this, bro. I think at 16, when Paladin wrote this, I don't know what zeitgeist or emanate meant. Or the zeitgeist of echoes. What the fuck? Can you explain this like I'm 5? Okay, so it's about the feeling that both players give off. Wait, I've never done this before. Here's an explanation for a 5-year-old. It's like emanate is like a special light or sound that comes off of you, showing how you feel when you play. Maybe one of you is super fast and the other is super clever. That's your special light. Echoes. Sometimes you play so well together that your lights look the same. You copy each other a bit, or you both feel the same happy or excited way. Your feelings echo each other, like shouting in a big cave and hearing your voice come back. Zeitgeist, this is the big picture. It's like the kind of day it is. Is it a happy day, a sleepy day, a spooky day? A zeitgeist is the main feeling of the whole game. And zeitgeist of echoes that both players emanate is the big main feeling of the whole game. Okay, so it's the vibe of the game. Can we say that this is the train of thought is like the vibe of the game? So I guess this whole section is about the vibe of the game. The art conditioning is when you leave logical spirals for your opponent that in reality are not worth their attention. This is very similar to what they talk about here, right? Where it is the attacks mental damage. Attacks mental damage are very similar to like conditioning someone or mental stacking someone, right? It's like sometimes if I do something risky and neutral that doesn't really give me that much reward, I can condition, like for example, if I do Kim forward heavy kick, it's not really that good, but it can force the opponent to look out for something, and therefore I can get away with my better options like drive rush easier, right? That's kind of what conditioning and mental stacks is about. Very important. It is true, like unorthodox play does help you do that, right? Because if it's a strategy the opponent has seen before, then it's easier to not get conditioned, right? For example, when I play Ronaldo in City of the Wolves, he has certain moves that are really good seemingly at first glance and that can condition the opponent. But really all it requires the opponent to do is play patient. And Ronaldo doesn't have a very good answer to patient reactive play. And so if you just get used to that, it's a lot harder to condition the opponent because the unorthodox aspect goes away, right? Easing with high risk, starting with low risk tools manages your conditioning. Okay, I talk about this a lot. What the fuck does this have to do with the zeitgeist of echoes that both players emanate? I'm not sure, but this section I talk about a lot too. This is what I would say having a good layer 1. So the echoes of the zeitgeist are about having a good layer 1. And what this means is like leading off with your more optimal strategies, right? So if you play 2xKO, right? And I have multiple different ways to play neutral. So for example, I could, let's say I'm playing Teemo round start, right? Teemo allows the team I've been cooking up with, right? I have many different things I can round start with, right? I can back off. I can do 5A plus assist. I can do jump 5A plus assist. Or I can make a big brain read that they're going to sit still and go for something like this. Which one of those should I lead off with? I'm not really sure, but I should lead off with one of the more optimal decisions, which is either back off because my team has really good neutral and I can exploit that, or do something like very safe like this, where I don't have to take a risk jumping forward. I don't have to take a risk potentially getting clipped by an assist and that sort of thing. So it's really important to lay off, choose your more optimal options, and typically these are your less risky options because you can play high risk and win, but the best players try to minimize some amount of obviously you have to take risk and you have to rotate things properly, but the way you filter 90% of players is by choosing better options on average, right? Instead of trying to just make high risk reads. And then high risk might not even be needed. That's what I was talking about. You got time to decide whether high risk are needed. Exactly. Shouts to Chris T. Chris T been cooking, by the way, in Japan. Kind of crazy. Maybe he knows something about the zeitgeist of echoes that both players emanate that I don't. So presence, this is talking about having good reactions is good. Yes, I agree. Having confidence is good. I agree. Developing confidence, again, could be this like whole paragraph or a whole document. But I think a lot of it comes down to what do you derive confidence from? A lot of people derive confidence from being in the same situation multiple times and succeeding in it, right? So to me, that's how you develop confidence, right? Like if I'm gonna be a lot more confident landing a combo like this in an actual match if I can do it 10 times in a row in training mode, right? And if I can't do this 10 times in a row in training mode, my chances of landing in an actual match are a lot lower, right? So like to me, that's how you build confidence is through training, repetition, and being exposed to the same situation a bunch. Confidence is really important. That changes if you have a read on how your opponent plays, of course, right? Ideally, as a competitor, you want to win without having a read on your opponent. I know that sounds weird. Like, shouldn't I always try to read my opponent? But if you've ever played rock, paper, scissors against someone, it's pretty hard to get a consistent read on someone, right? So ideally, your game plan is just so much stronger than theirs that it doesn't matter if you have a read or not, that you're just going to win outright, right? But then, like, of course, if someone's equal skill, the reads are going to come into play, and it's really important to exploit that, right? All right, snap judgments to make a quick assumption about your opponent. If the enemy starts a round in a type of way that screams bum, you can then treat him like a bum. Their movement makes them seem slightly scared. They are scared. I would say about this, I'm not really sure what this means. It's better to assume things about your opponent and have a working idea than not make any draft analysis to work with. I would agree. It's like Daigo was the first one that mentioned something about this like years ago. And the way Daigo would phrase people, like how he played in arcade, is he would put them in like buckets, right? And be like, okay, this guy likes to OD DP a lot. Therefore, he'll probably do wake up super, right? Or this guy is really aggressive. Therefore, he'll probably take more aggressive adjustments on defense, right? So there's like buckets that you can kind of put players into, and therefore you can get a read faster on them. Inflict Evil. Okay, I'm down for that. What the fuck? All forms of emotional confusion can be euphemized? Bro, what are they teaching these 16-year-old girl, 16-year-old girls, 16-year-old fighting game players. I've heard of the word euphemism, but I've never heard of the word euphemize. I still don't get it. Refer to something unpleasant. The author is 16, yeah. All forms of emotional confusion can be euphenized in the fighting game. What? I will inflict wrath and pain, subverting expectations, deception. What? Cutting people off? Numbing and taking advantage of your opponent? What the fuck? All right, I guess I'm not evil enough, bro. I think so there's a common saying in the fighting game community, like, what is it, like, don't anger Justin Wong or something? Don't anger Justin Wong. Don't taunt Justin Wong. Yeah, this is what this paragraph reminds me of. Yeah, I forget what happens here. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, he just taunts.
Damn, there's so much going on.
Oh, oh, Justin Wong.
Why you lose the game?
You messed up. You messed up. You messed up. You shouldn't have did that. You shouldn't have did that, buddy boy. He shouldn't have did that, boy.
So in my opinion, I actually think a lot of these can backfire, and I do not recommend inflicting evil generally, if that's what we're calling this, because I think a lot of times it can backfire in your face. That being said, hey, if you find success, I get it. I do think if you're gonna say anything about inflicting evil in match, I think sometimes it's okay to like play like a troll, and that can really piss people off and they play worse because of it, right? So use at your own risk. But I will say that like when people have taunted me, or like especially in like casual or ranked sets where I'm not like locked in, and then someone tries to taunt or like someone tries to like do something stupid, I like literally lock in and play better. Be careful with that one. Homework is really important. Take notes on everything. Notes are really important. I used to have literal documents full of, but okay, here's an example of like, I had notes for the slam, right? Like I did VOD review for an hour, and here's what I came up with, right? So like, I do regularly take notes. Like this was literally less than a week ago, right? So I do think it's important because again, your brain can't remember everything. So it's important to like make sure you document stuff. Oh, another thing I did, I was VOD reviewing of K7. No, after the stream yesterday of K7, I did some VOD review, I did some additional play, and I'm like, hey, we need to test these 4 things tomorrow, right? I wrote it down so we remember. So yeah, notes are very, very important. And there's a lot of things to take notes on. Watch your losses, I agree. I mean, that's just obvious, right? But it's important to watch. This is usually the diagram that they showed survivor bias. I don't understand what this has to do with losses or continuing to lose, but yes, understanding your losses is very important. Drills are also very important, especially for things like execution and reactions, especially in games like Street Fighter. I think 2xKO, it's not as important, but any game that's like very reaction based, I think 2xKO will sort of be like in 20XX when people need to parry everything on reaction. Drills are really important. Chapter 7, let's talk about theory. There's different types of players. I don't agree with this model. I think most people are a combination of all 3, and like they put more stat points into one or the other, right? I don't agree with any of this. It's not that I don't agree. I don't think it's like a RPS kind of decision making, where I think it's more of like everyone has their strengths and weaknesses, and it's kind of hard to put them in 3 different buckets. What makes a strong strategy? Yeah, I think it's important to have growth in your strategy. All right, that's it. This is interesting. Okay, so I thought I read through this all. Apparently I did. I think there's a lot of good things here. In particular, I think it's really cool seeing a young player talk about these very abstract concepts and recognizing that these are the keys to improvement, because I really do think so. That being said, I think there's a lot of stuff I would put emphasis in different areas and describe it differently. At the same time, my answers aren't correct either, so this is just my interpretation on a document that I think is in the right direction. But yeah, this was interesting. So let me know what you guys think. I thought it was pretty cool to read through. 27 pages. I think there's probably some good nuggets of information here. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If this video does well, I can like contact Paladin. We can talk about it. I can ask him what kind of evil he inflicts on people and get the answer to what zeitgeist of echoes that both players emanate mean. So if you guys want to see the follow-up video, like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one.